We would now like to welcome Matthew Donnison of RIB. Matthew, if you'd like to share your screen, and we can take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne. You can hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Give me 2 seconds. Let me share. So can you see the presentation okay?
We can, yeah, we can see everything there. That's perfect.
Okay, right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending the talk today. What I'm going to do is run you through some of the features and functionality of iTWO costX. My name is Matt Donnison. I'm one of the consultants at RIB. RIB has a number of products within the group, including iTWO, which is a document management platform, has a lot of other functionality. iTWO costX, or what used to just be known as costX. There's iTWO Benchmark, which is a cloud-based benchmarking tool. And there's the iTWO and the M2 end-to-end construction solutions, as well as a data analytics tool of DataPine. But there's many more as well. In terms of the iTWO costX product that I'm going to be showing you today, there are 4 different versions of it. I'm going to be walking through the product on the left there, the iTWO costX, which has all of the BIM capability and it has all of the workbook capability as well. But if you don't need all of that functionality, you can choose from cheaper versions which have reduced functionality. Just a quick overview there, of some of the users around the world. It is a product that is used worldwide, and there's worldwide offices that support it. The company started back in 2004 and has then grown from there. The main features of costX include the inbuilt measurement tools, the auto revisioning capability to track changes between drawings. It has a report writer, so you can customize the outputs that you want to see. The embedded workbooks live link to the drawings. The entire process is paperless, and it allows you to collaborate with your team with multiple people on the same project at the same time. By using the system, you can save time, eliminate errors, future-proof your business, and impress your clients with the standard of the outputs. You don't have any clutter on your desks, and you don't miss anything because you can track all the quantities and see the live links of where they link through to the drawings. The system is able to import a wide range of file formats from IFC, DWF, PDF, and so on. And then on the other end, once you produce your cost plans, BOQs, or estimates, you can output that information to PDFs or Excels, along with linking it via APIs to other systems. You can use the benchmarking tool, and you can upload your estimates into that benchmarking tool to then carry out your benchmarking process and see whether your cost plan is within the realms of expectation, or you can also produce conceptual estimates from benchmark as well. The support line is available during business hours, sort of from New Zealand time on Monday morning through to close of business American time on a Friday. So if you're working during the working week and you're up till midnight doing something, you can just call the phone line and someone will be available to take your call. It's used by a large number of consultant quantity surveyors in Ireland and around the world, and also a number of contractors are using it as well, along with some other developers and owner organizations. RIB is partnered with a number of other bodies, so you can see there we have partnerships with people like Autodesk, following on from the presentation just now, and also with Microsoft, the RSCS, and of course CitA as well. We have a number of universities that use the software as part of their teaching programs, so that when graduates complete their courses and come out into industry, they already have a familiarity with the system. And then we have a couple of quick testimonials there just to show you some nice things that people have said about the system. But what I'll do is now jump across and actually give you a live demonstration of using iTWO costX on a BIM project. So I have an example model here that's come across from Revit. In this case, it's come across as a DWFX, and that enables us to link the 3D model along with the 2D sheets that have been exported from that. Now, when evaluating the model, you can do your general sort of BIM viewer check. So you can isolate different layers. You can take slices through the model if you want to. I can hide the walls, hide the roof, and see what is contained within it. I can also isolate just individual components from the model tree here. So I'll give it a second just to load up. So if I was to look at the ceilings, it then isolates just that component, and I can then open up my schedule from the bottom here, and that then gives me all of the data that's available for the visible objects on screen. So you can see here, we've got the area fields from them, we've got the family name, we've got various other properties that may be useful as part of our takeoff. What I've done in addition is you can export this schedule via right-click. You can export it into Excel, and from Excel you can add your own data into the model. So I've gone through every component within this model, and I've added my own code here called the QSID, which in this case is an NRM1 code. And I've also added in a rate code, which will link these objects to an item in my rate library. So in this case, I'm using 3.3.A, which is the rate in my rate library for suspended ceilings. So let me just hide that. If I want to, you can measure manually. So into my dimensions ribbon, I can switch into point mode, and I can click around the 4 corners of an object, or more corners in this case, and do just some manual checks on the geometry of the objects, and I can check whether the geometry matches up with the properties. But once you've satisfied yourself that the properties are accurate, you can then move on to automated takeoff approaches. So if I just zoom out slightly, what we have is the ability to import from a BIM template or a model map. So BIM templates are supplied with the system, and they are sort of generic ways to extract the data, or you can use model maps which you define yourself. And if I run this model map that I've previously created, it will extract all the quantities and put them into the structure that I've told it to. So in this case, you can kind of see as the bars running across the screen that it's using my NRM1 code as my folder structure, and then it's using my rate code as my dimension group name. So all of the windows of a certain type are going to be grouped together. All of the doors of a certain type are going to be grouped together, and we're going to link that through to our rate library in a second. So rather than manually doing a takeoff from this model or from the 2D drawings, which might take me days, weeks, however long it does, we've extracted the quantities here. It takes about a minute normally, and then we can carry out a QA process if we want to, just to verify that everything we expected to see has been extracted, and to check that the quantities that have come out are in fact correct. So we can see that on the left-hand side here. If I look into, say, 2.8 internal doors, I can right-click, I can isolate that folder, and if I zoom out, we can then see the grouping of those doors into their individual dimension groups, which correlate with my rate library. So 2.8.B, if I click on that now, it's highlighted these doors in green, so they're sort of double door sets are 2.8.B. 2.8.C are just these single doors, and then by clicking through the rest, we can kind of see the rest of them highlighting. So 2.8.E are the glazed doors. As part of our QA process, if we're using a DWFX, I can jump across to the 2D sheet now, and you can see that that takeoff there of the 2.8.E is automatically highlighted on that drawing. So I can click through onto the other dimension groups and see where they appear as well. And if I hover over each, it tells me what it is. So once we're happy with this takeoff process, we can jump across to the workbook view. And currently there's no workbook within there. So I go to generate a workbook from the dimension groups. I give it a name. So let's just simply call it the estimate. I tell it which rate library I want to use. So let's call it something like this, usually NRM1 rate library. And the descriptions are going to come from the rate library. So it's going to replace 2.8.b with the correct description for that item. And when I press OK, it goes through, it generates that workbook, and it costs up all of the items. So in this case, the cost of that model is 4.9 million. Now, that is, of course, the cost of the model and the objects contained within the model. So it doesn't take account of anything that's not included. So, this is sort of the architectural model. There's no M&E content in there of any significance. You can see we've got some small amounts of M&E, but you would need to then do the same process through from the M&E model, structural models, if appropriate, to build up your complete estimate. But as an example workflow from doing the takeoff, producing the dimension groups, and then producing the costed estimate, you can see how simple the process can be. And then once you finish producing the estimate, if I look into the detail, you can see all the different wall types, quantities, and the rates. You can then output that into various reports. So there's standard reports that that come with the system, and then there's custom reports that you can create as well. So if I just use a fairly simple example and just find a costed 2-level bill of quants. Then you can see there the output that it's created for us. So this is an out-of-the-box report. That's what we call a standard report. It's easily changed and tweaked. You can change the different columns, the logos, headers, footers, and so on. And if you want something a little bit more custom, then you can use the custom report writer to create that. So that's sort of the end of the presentation. Fairly brief, but I wanted to show how quick and easy the process can be.
That's great, Matthew. Thanks a million. That was very insightful. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions that they'd like to, they could either put them into the chat or they can just turn on their microphones and ask the question directly to Matthew.
Yes, Matthew, Alan Hoare here. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's fascinating how the whole computer-aided estimating and taking off is continuing to advance. And I'll be certainly talking to my colleagues in the university here to make sure that they're all up to speed as to the latest technologies. Yeah.
Yep.
So thanks for that. I know we would generally use bespoke computer-aided taking off software like costX and BuildSoft technology. But it's more and more obvious to me that we need to utilize the BIM tools we have and in order to extract the quantities. Are you finding that many of the cost engineering or quantity surveying profession are actively engaging in working with your tools?
Yes, to varied degrees. There's a wide range of capability within the industry of quantity surveyors, cost planners, of computer literacy of the tools, literacy of BIM. But generally speaking, there's a lot of interest in implementing tools like costX or others. The part that a lot of people struggle with, particularly utilizing the BIM workflows, is design maturity. And particularly at early stages when you're producing cost plans, you generally don't have the level of detail within the models to extract all the quantities you need. So it does become a hybrid approach. that quite often you can get some of the quantities out of the model. And you could see sort of in the demonstration that I showed some of the 2D stuff as well, that you can revert to your 2D drawings and do some manual measures. That if you know that there's components that are missing that you need to make manual allowances for, you can certainly measure from the 2D as well as the 3D. So,
well, I'm sure Autodesk and your community are aware that Ireland and indeed most of the sort of developed countries in construction industries are using this thing called ICMS, which is the International Construction Measurement Standards. And so there's always the challenge with computer-aided estimating and computer-aided measurement is that it's generally generated by, with respect, design people, architects, engineers, and they don't tend to, and why would they compartmentalize those into elements or trades? That's not their role. Their role is to design.
So that's...
But quantity surveyors need to digest the information in a structured format using what's called a standard. Like example, you can have the International Land Measurement Standard, the International Property Measurement Standard, the International Construction Measurement Standard. And if we can get to that, then I think that design companies like or tech companies like Autodesk might start to build solutions for cost engineers, estimators that is ICMS compliant. And that's the holy grail. Once you do that, then we can work with the model much more easy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the key to wider adoption of ICMS, because the concept behind it is a good one, but it all comes down to code mapping, because the designers, like you say, they're
model mapping or whatever you want to call it.
They're populating their models with uniclass codes because that's what they're told to do as part of their briefs. And if there was a mapping between uniclass and standards used by quantity surveyors, then the process would be a lot smoother than it currently is.
Michael McCarthy actually has a name or a question there. Sorry.
Isn't he?
Yeah. Is there a quick process to check on component names and to ensure no errors in the model?
Within costX, you can sort of do it manually, but costX isn't intended as a sort of a model validation verification tool. So a lot of people still use tools like Celebri to carry out, model checking.
Okay.
Yeah, and apologies, I got the company on. It's RIB Software, isn't that right? You're from, yeah. But it's still the same principle applies. It's a model platform that we're talking about.
Thanks, Matthew. That's what my engineers currently use whenever I have queries for them. But it's not something that I use myself in terms of Celebri.
I tend to find that with a lot of software solutions that there's not one tool that does everything brilliantly. So you do end up using a range of point solutions. Celebri is very good at the validation and verification. That's what a lot of people use it for. And then costX for doing the costing. And it becomes a bit of a mix and match approach.
Yep. Thank you.
No, that's great. I don't know, Alan, did you have any other questions?
No, that's fine. Just to thank Matthew for his time. Did I miss one presentation? Was there a second one?
You did. You missed. We had Amanda Fennell and Brian Roach on from Autodesk at the start, Autodesk Construction Cloud. Yeah, that's fine. It's been recorded anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great, Matthew. Thanks a million. That's super. And you'll be presenting again at the gathering.
Yeah, just to thank for your support and, let your community know about the gathering. We're hoping to get a good turnout for the gathering in a couple of weeks. And hopefully we'll get have some good momentum. So the purpose of these fringe benefits is to give our sponsors an additional opportunity to share their thoughts,
Yeah, that's super. Thanks a million, Matthew. And we'll talk to you over the next week or so before the actual conference takes place.
Sure. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks a million.